Hello everybody, my name is Mark Burbage. I'm the Development and Quality Lead for the Association for the Cannabinoid Industry. Thank you for joining me today for our talk on the future of cannabinoids with CBD Live at VoxPro with the Cannavist. Today we'll be going to be focusing on future innovations in the cannabinoid industry, and today I'm joined by Dr. Parveen Batara, the Regulatory Director for the Association for the Cannabinoid Industry. But don't be fooled, the job title is just a part of what she does. She has a multitude of patents in her name and has worked on many different product developments, both in the cannabinoid sector and beyond. We have Nick Pateras here, the EU Managing Director of Materia Ventures. Materia work in a multitude of sectors, including the medical industry across Europe and a CBD-focused side in the UK. We have Angus Taylor here, the CEO of Infused Products International, who are working in a multitude of areas in the CBD sector. We have Rosemary Mazanet, who is from Columbia Care. She is an MD and a PhD who's worked for the majority of her career in drug development. And we have Philippe Courensat from weedworks, who are currently working on delivering some of the highest quality CBD products available on the market. So onto our topic at hand. CBD is everywhere. Everybody's seen it, everybody's heard about it. Whether you're talking to your grandmother or your young niece, they all know about CBD. There's multiple product categories that we're looking at currently, including food, vape and cosmetics, and more recently beverages being one of the fastest moving sectors that we're seeing. But what's next? Cannabis is a very complex plant with over 300 compounds within it. Studies are limited. We've found that there's multiple benefits to the plant, and there's a lot of interest in it across the world as both a medicinal product, a health and wellness product, and also a recreational product. We've heard of many other compounds, such as CBG, which within the industry is becoming a well-known compound within the cannabis plant. CBC. Terpenes are another aspect that are coming very much to the fore with regards to these types of products. We're seeing products that are being developed with higher bioavailability, and we're also seeing products that are infusing together different adaptogenic herbs, vitamins, minerals, all for the health and well-being of people within the sector, people that want to use these products. For the consumer, the education's reasonably limited. Health claims are not available on products due to the fact that we haven't got the necessary studies, but people are seeing a huge benefit and taking a huge interest in this wonderful plant. So, without further ado, Angus, your most recent brand that you've been working on is Amphora, which is a vape brand you're soon to release in the UK. I'd be really interested to hear a little bit about it, so please tell us.
Thanks, Mark. So you did mention IPI just briefly in our introductions. Infused Products International is, I suppose, a vertically integrated cannabinoid company. We are a licensed producer on the island of St. Vincent in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we are bringing our first CBD formulation to market in the UK, as you mentioned, which we're really excited. It's about to hit the shops here in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, that's what we're up to right now. As a product developer, very interested, obviously, in the cascading effects of the changing regulations around the world. The different approaches that different countries have taken with regards to deregulating certain cannabinoids, but keeping others still in a listed status. I come from Canada, where adult use is nationwide at this point. But at the same time, we have a very different approach towards CBD in Canada, where by treating it like other cannabinoids and not differentiating it in any way. It's made it very difficult for consumers to actually access cannabidiol. So we are very excited to be in the UK. We see that the regulatory system there is developing in a way that is going to allow for consumers to have greater access to better quality products. And we look forward to the regulations also opening up over time to allow us to work with more ingredients and create better products that innovate us in essence. So I guess that to a start, that's my intro.
Thank you very much, Angus. Very excited, really interested to hear about what you're doing on the island of St. Vincent as well. So Rosemary, on to you. So you've worked in drugs development for a large proportion of your career. You work very much on the regulatory side. Columbia Care have a large focus on inhalable and ingestible products. Please tell me a little bit more.
So basically, we're in 18 states in the United States. So I think it's fair to say that we make about every form factor that's possible with cannabinoids in some of those states, you know? So we have all different types of, HTE vape, gummies of different types, things that are more water soluble. And we're constantly having a very broad effort in making sure that the products that we have are not only safe. So we're very clear about the regulations. We want these products to all meet any country standards that are required for GMP or whatever. But we also want them to be able to get to patients. One of the things that's a problem is a person can pick up something and it says how many milligrams of CBD are in it, but they can't really translate that into what that's going to do for them because they don't know how to think about bioavailability. They don't know how to think about any of these things, right? So, we are looking at form factors that make it easier for patients to have bioavailable products in topicals as well. That's the biggest thing is, we want to sell things that actually have an effect, aren't just moisturizers. And that's where we look to the future is bringing products that will actually deliver the cannabinoids to people. And for CBD, we can do that outside of the United States quite readily as well. And so we're now in Germany and in the UK.
That's very exciting. And how do you see the differences between the work that you do in the US and then coming over to Europe? Is there synergy there, or is there very different in terms of the approach that you need to take?
Well, the final approach, if we think about it, that the ultimate consumer or arbiter here is going to be the regulators ultimately, right? They're going to come in and tell us what we have to do to be able to sell the products. So, that's a little bit stricter in Europe than it is in the US. But in the US, where some of these markets are a little bit more fleshed out, we really know what consumers like and what consumers will buy over time as far as the form factors. So, we can take that experience knowing what sells well, what people think works for them, and be able to make sure that it's made to the satisfaction of all the regulators around the world.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. On to you next. So your background as an organisation is very much from a Canadian base. So I'm presuming you've got a good insight into obviously what's happened there and then bringing it over to the UK and into Europe as a medical products and also your CBD products that you're bringing to the UK. Can you tell me a little bit about your philosophy towards products and the consumer and the journey that you've been on to kind of take you to this place and your direction and focus as an organization?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Mark. So the way we think about the market is really bringing together our backgrounds as a team in pharma and CPG. So for example, my background, I spent most of my career actually at Johnson & Johnson before moving into the cannabis space in Canada. And a number of our team have similar journeys, and then bringing together that with what we've actually learned from our time in the cannabis space in Canada itself, where there's obviously been a medical market for commercial purposes for about 7 or 8 years now. and try to apply those and all the lessons that we've learned from our time in those adjacent industries to the nascent European market. So as you mentioned, we have a division focused on medical cannabis, a division focused on CBD wellness, which is primarily centered here in the UK. And to your question around our philosophy, what we really try to do is, as a distributor of CBD products in the UK, try to think about what are the need states the consumer is looking to address, what are the pain points and the moments throughout their day or their routines that CBD would alleviate or make easier for them. So we really take a consumer-first background. In our mind, the consumer is really the judge and jury, and work backwards in architecting what our supply chain looks like, what our product portfolio looks like, whether that's a consumer looking to treat chronic anxiety, different types of pain, or maybe they're trying to sleep better in the evenings. Really, that's kind of the approach we take, is trying to solve a consumer's need. And so I hope our product portfolio reflects that. Today, we have a vaporizer, a CBD vaporizer on the market under the brand Hiatus. We also have another CBD topicals brand called Pure Ratios, which we just recently announced. And we'll be expanding the portfolio throughout the rest of the year.
It's very exciting, really interesting to kind of hear about the targeted focus on issues with the consumer that your company's aiming in on, which is something really interesting and very close to my heart. So thank you very much for that. Philippe, at weedworks, so I know that your company is very focused on delivering the maximum potential from the plant and really understanding that and then engaging with that to give the consumer the maximum benefit. So please tell me a little bit about your company's philosophy about your plans for the future.
Thank you, Mark. Basically, yeah, as you said, I think the idea is to create consumer products, basically to connect people to the, well, as you said, to the, I think we all know, vast potential of the plant. And the idea is basically by, the idea is I have, for example, a very different background than most participants. I come from an investment banking background, so I wouldn't, therefore the ideology is for example, the way we construct our team is by trying to assemble the best people from the various, professional walks of life. So we have scientific advisors, etc. And the idea is to, by applying best practices, known practices from other industries to the CBD industry, by delivering the best product for the consumer. That's kind of the ideology. And whilst we want to have an integrated company, really, I think the forefront of our thinking is to create a sustainable product in terms of how we source it, where we make it, and think about it from that point of view.
And it's really interesting that you talk about sustainability, because cannabis and the plant has so much potential for the planet as a sustainable use, whether it be in plastics, whether it be as fuel, or the multitude of other areas that we have available to use the plant with. And for me personally, I can really see this plant having a huge impact in not only people's health, but also the planet's health going forward. And that really excites me.
That's exactly right.
Fantastic. So on to Parveen. I mean, I've had the pleasure of working with you for nearly 12 months now, and I've had the benefit of being able to ask you a multitude of questions about your history and background in creation and formulation of products. So please, Parveen, tell me a little bit about your background, about kind of what you envisage for the future of CBD and kind of your plans going forward.
And thank you, Mark. My background is that I have over 20 years in pharmaceutical industries, where I've just literally, I did my PhD at Imperial, and my PhD was in organic chemistry, simple organic chemistry. But by heart, I am really passionate about the biochemistry, all the plant chemistry, and that's where my innovation comes from. And then in the start of my career, I did all the clinical trials, drug development, the medicinal drug development. But during that part of the journey, I had the opportunity to meet with the different teams and learn new experiences. It's not only the organic chemistry, R&D, drug development, the clinical trials, the biological side of it, but also the enzymatic, which I think has given me a wider opportunity to think about out of the box, shall we say, about any innovations and any challenges and problems. When I look at it, a couple of examples are already some of my patents or some of the patents which are coming through. So it's for the known chemistry, known product, known medicinal product, how to make them into a new innovation. For example, in the stereochemistry, everybody knows in the steroids, everybody knows that the steroids are already well-known established chemistry, but I use the techniques, enzymatic chemistry, to do the stereo-specific steroid preparation. So that's really was a very innovative technique. So I love doing that sort of work. I developed just recently a grass extract. Grass extract, again, everybody knows that's a noble grass extract, but we made the compound chlorine E6, which is highly bioactive, and this is going to be this product has gone through the phase 2 clinical trials and will be going through phase 3 clinical trials. This was a company called Mundi Pharma, and this will be the new, very first innovative anti-cancer drug for the prostate cancers. So that I every time, wherever I have an opportunity, I love, and I must say that I've been blessed with my teams who've been so good taking my ideas and working under my leadership to develop these new products. So I had an opportunity also on the cannabis, where literally on that project we had to develop the new strains of the cannabis seeds to develop THC enriched products, and we grown those seeds and developed the medicinal crop, and extracted the products and had the FDA approval. But I have got on the cannabis industry, I've got loads of patents where the different innovative techniques has been used in extraction and in the finished formulation as well. But my aim is, and also the way I see the future of the cannabis industry is, there is lot to do, lot to learn. The point which I mainly like to handle is that, for example, everybody is looking for how I'm growing the cannabis, how we can extract different cannabinoids from it. First, let's handle each problem or each challenge on an individual basis. The cannabis plant, there are a multitude of challenges. For example, growing the various types, how we can increase the yield, but that could be a limiting factor if we have so many cannabinoids and the products on the market which rely on just one plant. How can we just bring the new technology? So there is an opportunity to use enzymatic technology here to develop those things. Again, I won't go into that in detail, but there is opportunity. To me, I think I'm really, really passionate about the future of the cannabis, the cannabinoids, because I spent nearly 4 months after my approval by FDA with DEA to just challenge them why we are not allowed to commercialize our product, because DEA wasn't happy to degrade from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 when the days when 2014-15, when I was working with cannabis at that time on especially the THC. So I feel that from that point of view, things are moving still slowly from the regulatory point of view. If we have to embrace all the medicinal properties, the opportunities which this plant has to offer, we need to really look into the safety as well as look at the regulations which are actually controlling this product. And so I feel there is a lot to offer, and I'm really excited. At the moment, on the CMC ACI, I'm the regulatory lead. However, that is just one of my passions, but I'm really looking forward to opening up the innovations in the cannabis.
Thank you very much, Parveen. And you know what? It's fascinating when you talk about a grass extract that can be used to cure cancer. I think it really shows us the potential that this planet can give us to use what already exists here in natural forms to really research and find out what we can do for the future. And the enzymatic side, the work on genetics, very, very exciting. I really look forward to hearing more about that. So going forward now, what is the future for CBD? What is the future for cannabis, for cannabinoids in general? We've got some people here with incredible expertise in their fields with a high level of knowledge. But what we all know is that there's a huge disconnect between the knowledge base of the people that are able to develop and innovate some of these fantastic products and the consumer that's out there. So Angus, I'll begin with you. From a consumer perspective, when we're looking at future innovations within the industry, how do you perceive really being able to connect with the consumer, really trying to build that education and the understanding of these amazing products that are going to be released in the coming years?
It's well to point out that consumer education about cannabinoids in general is quite poor. My previous business before starting IPI was a company called New Leaf. It was the largest Canadian adult use retail chain, sold it close to 2 years ago, but nonetheless, the aspect of educating the consumer was a primary focus of us as retailers, because making products that are easy to understand for consumers makes that journey in the store better. The customer experience is easier for them to understand, and they feel like they are empowered to make decisions about their own health. So with that in mind, when we were developing certainly this inhale line that we're bringing out, but really the whole pipeline of products that we have planned for rollout later this year and into 2021. It's with the idea that we're really marketing around an effects approach. This obviously is a bit of a razor's edge in trying to differentiate what is a medical claim versus a description of an effect. But I think that a careful lexicon and a proper use of terminology and then the support that you do through your online resources for the consumer to be able to access the real information about the products they're getting. We have a very transparent approach to the ingredients and the testing that's been done on our products. I think that will be a future part of consumers' education experience. And while it may not be important right now, we believe at least the consumers are going to demand this in the future. Our approach really is to try and be predictive of regulatory environments that will be coming down the line and formulate for that purpose. We think it's a real mistake for companies not to be paying attention to the environment that they're building products in, and ensuring that when they're supporting those products, the consumer really has the best information to make the right decision.
Thank you, Angus. That's really helpful. And it's so interesting to see that you've worked on dispensary chains in Canada, and now obviously you're moving into the UK sector. The restrictions from a marketing perspective in the UK, we can't make any claims on the products. Now, when you're looking at the retail sector within Canada, was there a difference there? Are people able to talk about the strains and the genetics and the benefits and obviously the cannabis?
Not really. To be fair, no. And in our stores, again, it was part of the training that we had to do with our sales team, was that there's very offside language. And if you start talking about people's diagnosed conditions and pointing to products and saying that that's for that, you are well over the line of what's permitted in that kind of conversation. Discussions about medical conditions should be happening between doctors and patients. So in retail dispensaries, in adult or rec use environments, it's sensible that there is a line that is made in that conversation, so that those that do not have the training, to be fair, aren't providing information that is either inaccurate or old or misleading. One thing that is of great difference between Canada and the UK is marketing and brand development, where we have enormous restrictions on brands and branding in Canada. And if you look at licensed producers, the product that Health Canada makes them package it in very undesirable. Health Canada really treats it like cigarettes. They do not want any attraction to the product that can come from sort of traditional marketing techniques. So there's certainly no celebrity endorsement, even logos and the likes. On packages here, it's a single color, it's a very tiny logo, and the rest is all safety and danger messages. So that's how we've been regulated here. And unfortunately, that also includes CBD. So on a package, it's very difficult to educate the consumer because everything is offside. And they haven't differentiated CBD from any of the other cannabinoids. So there's no opportunity for that conversation to be different about CBD than it is for anything else.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And in a way, considering in the UK, we see ourselves being quite restricted in terms of the marketing claims and the things that we can be said. It's nice to hear that ultimately when people are branding their products, they can at least make them appealing, whereas in Canada, you can't put so much of a focus on that. So thank you very much for that, Angus. So Rosemary, I mean, Columbia Care, you're in a multitude of states. You've got, you're based all around the world in the work that you do. You yourself come from a background of drug development. So what would you envisage for the next steps in our industry, and how can you envisage the future going?
You know, I think everybody on the phone is invested in having high quality products. So we're all very invested in safety. One of the things and we're all very interested in claims also, you know, because, you know, that will be somewhat of an all boats float, right? When we get some of that information, that will benefit all of us. We're certainly doing a lot of clinical research. I'm sure everybody on this line is as well. But the big issue here has to do with dose also. You know, we have, the publications are really in very high doses, and some of the studies that we're doing are with high doses of CBD. But we really need to know and inform consumers, you know, what is a dose that will give them the wellness effect that they're looking for. And that's a bit more of a challenge. And I think that that's where we really need to think about for the future. You know, what dose actually will give them, and it is bioavailable, what dose will get in. You know, 10 ounces of CBD in a 32-ounce juice, you know, is not going to cut it. You know, and I understand, we all know that, but consumers might not, right? They're not, you know, so we need to all, and again, I applaud this industry. This industry gets along exceedingly well, because we do understand that you know, we all have brands, but we do understand that to a certain extent, all boats will float when there's meaningful information. And as long as we have those same standards, you know, we need to know what doses people need to have, what effect they need to expect, what side effects they need to expect at a particular dose. And I think that, you know, and we won't be taken seriously by the regulators. You know, Parveen mentions the regulators, you know, until we have products that meet a certain standard and we even know what dose we think people should get, the regulators don't want to talk to us. It's that simple, you know? So we are evolving towards that, I think.
Absolutely, and I think the expertise of yourself and the other people on this panel, the wealth of knowledge that everybody has here, the understanding of the need that we need to show what this plant can do in its various forms and variations, to prove the science behind it, to allow us to make these claims, is something that over the coming years is something that will happen. And when we've got the scientific evidence and background behind that, I think we'll really be able to express this plant more, and more interest will come from that. We will have more and more targeted products that will be able to focus on different areas for people. So thank you very much for that, Rosemary. Nick, so Materia, very interesting company. The things that you guys do around Germany in terms of the medical side, focusing on the CBD and wellness area in the UK, it's absolutely fascinating. So I'd be interested to hear what your views are for the future of the industry for your company, whether that be on the medical side in the EU or indeed your CBD and wellness brands in the UK.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was just going to build on Angus's point around the fact that there's a foundational base of an industry established for CBD here in Europe and especially in the UK. And that's interesting because the absence of regulation on CBD up until now basically has kind of had CBD decoupled from other cannabinoids like THC. Whereas to Angus's point, in Canada, you have a single piece of legislation that governs CBD and THC as identical cannabinoids effectively, which is why they're so difficult for the consumer to really understand, grapple with, and distinguish between. In terms of the future, I think in Europe, we still have this, the regulatory landscape really resembles this ball of yarn, where there's a lot of confusion between different jurisdictions. There's also a conversation happening at the United Nations level around whether or not certain CBD extracts are and should be regulated like a controlled substance by the international drug control treaties. So that may have spilled down effects into the individual markets in Europe. So I think when we talk about what the industry looks like moving forward, right now it's this labyrinth of confusion. And I think that spills from the companies trying to operate and figure out how to think about this cannabinoid to the regulators and how they interact with the industry. And of course, that then spills down to the consumer. So where we find ourselves today is probably at the end of this prologue of CBD in Europe. And hopefully we will start to have clarity around how you can sell CBD, how do you produce CBD and sell it to the consumer. And I think that'll really, we're in a phase of leveling up by virtue of that. We're going to have products that are cleaner, properly labeled, adhere to certain quality standards, and that's good for the industry as a whole. Up until now, you have had the opportunity because of the absence of regulations for lesser players or players who are not as adherent to certain standards and protocols to come in because there's been no regulation. We're now going to filter those players out. And I think it's going to mean better brands, better products for the consumer. So it's an exciting time because we find ourselves at the bottom of this mountain with a lot of work to do. But when we ascend it, it's going to be a beautiful skyline.
Thank you very much for that. And it's really interesting when you say about the people who are serious and the people who are interested in regulation and want to do it properly. I mean, I myself, I've tried countless samples of different types of isolate and distillate CBD products. And when you start tracing back through the supply chain of these, and then you kind of reach a point where you're looking at brokers and brokers of brokers and brokers of brokers of brokers even, and you look at the raw materials, and quite often a sample that you might receive in the first instance is nothing like the finished product that you're getting. And I think the consumer safety of these products and understanding that we're not buying contaminated extracts is so important to this industry. And for the consumer, it really is the key, because we as an organization, as an industry, we know the value of this plant and we know what it can do for people. But the last thing that any of us want to see happening is some of these people that are producing extracts that aren't up to the required standard, that could potentially make people unwell for all of the wrong reasons. And it's nothing to do with the plant that it comes from. It's the way they've been cultivated. It's the way that they've been extracted. And it's very much putting commercial gain over bringing quality products to the industry. So thank you for that, Nick. So Philippe, obviously you've got a large focus on quality, on bringing new products to the industry. Your background's may be slightly different to the other people on the call, but I think coming from the background that you do come from, it's given you a real different perception of the industry. So I'd be really interested to hear about your view for the future of the cannabinoid industry, for CBD as a whole.
Yes, also thank you, Mark. Basically, I think there's a few elements, and most of them have been mentioned by everyone, because I think they are the common ground we find ourselves on. And I think there's a few things we need to be doing. One is educating the people and the consumer, the potential client. And we all said that, and it's it's partly done by the research that goes in the product, by explaining how the products are made, by most importantly, diligently making the product. But I feel also there's an important element, how should I say, of destigmatizing it. Because on the one hand, like a tremendous body of research is forming that it can do tremendous things. I'm not making any medical claims, but it can potentially cure cancer. On the other hand, there's so much like social stigma to date attached to just the name cannabis in many of the regions we're working on. So I think destigmatizing this plant whilst educating people, I think, is very important to the process. And the other extremely important component, I think, is diligently, again, by applying diligent research and making really, really high quality products, secondary products, which will make the plant more accessible to more people. So I think this is how we see the future of destigmatizing it, introducing it to more people, and most importantly, creating sustainable products and high quality products. And I would even go a step further. I would even say that everyone that's involved in this industry, the people on this call, if anything, we have a certain responsibility, I dare say, because we're ultimately trying to connect people to the magnificent benefits of cannabis. So we need to, if anything, do it ultra diligently, because we have the responsibility, as you yourself, Mark, you said, about introducing the plant well.
Absolutely, and I think those two key areas that you point on, the destigmatization of the plant, is so important. There's a multitude of other compounds that are used recreationally around the world and for other purposes that don't provide the same benefits as cannabis does, that don't necessarily have the well-being effect that cannabis has. And I think that when we begin to understand cannabis more and more, and also the history of cannabis and its consumption throughout the course of time and the benefits that people have had, I mean, up until 100 years or so ago, it was used commonplace around the world as food, as rope, as the seeds. There's been a multitude of uses for this plant, and the benefits have been huge. So thank you very much for that, Philippe. And just to touch on the other area that say about responsibility, this is something that I hold very close to my heart, that we all have a huge responsibility on our shoulders as people that operate in this space. We are the gatekeepers of the future of this plant, and we are the gatekeepers to ensure that everybody can get the benefit from this, and we do need to take that responsibility on our shoulders. It's not just about making money, it's about really being able to let the human race excel and advance with this plant. So thank you very much for that. And Parveen, you, in your short time with the ACI, with almost 12 months we've worked together now, you've had a huge impact on everybody that you've spoken to, including probably all the people on this call as well, and your knowledge and expertise of what you know. You've given us a really interesting insight into kind of your vision for different areas of the industry in your past. But I'd be really interested to know what's the next steps. What do you see as the imminent future for our industry going forwards? Oh, Parveen, you're muted.
I think all the panels on this talk have mentioned that the destigmatization of the plant, regulation, safety, these are absolutely the key things. And when I started with CMC, was that was my key area, that I just want you to just see there are so many regulations. First of all, why there are so many regulations here? Let's look at the UK. I will talk about UK only at the moment, because UK has been exporting most of the CBD, all the other cannabinoids so far, and just maybe small formulations happening here and there, and even not growing in UK. And as a result of that, what happened is UK has become a really, really hub of regulations. They have built up so many regulations because they're buying in the raw material from the other countries. As a result, they wanted best of best, and in doing so, they have built in so many regulations into that. As a result, then as compared to something like somebody like Germany, we have now created so much regulation that our industry is in danger in UK. Unless we deconstruct these regulations, we won't be in the level playing field with the rest of the world. If we want to economize this industry in UK, we need to do something. But having said that, in order to deregulate the industry, we can't do that because consumer safety is really, really important to us. In order to maintain the consumer safety, we need to make sure that we are generating a safety data to ensure that consumer is safe, and hence understand why did we put those regulations, how can we deregulate these regulations. So consumer safety, safety regulations, safety evidence-based data, as well as our techniques to analyze these compounds, how, because our home office regulations have a very stringent rules about it. We can't use the flowers, we can't use the leaves when we're growing the hemp plant. Why do I grow it? Why can't I go somewhere else? So you're really, really not welcoming the cannabis industry here. So we need to really do something about it. And I'm working with the regulators as well. And the view is that, yes, we need to have the evidence-based data. We need to have the safety data generated. We need to deregulate this industry, but on the basis as long as we have a sufficient safety data in place. So that's exactly what I've been doing with the CMC and the ACI, making sure that first of all understand, have the gap analysis, root cause analysis. Why are we having that many regulation? Why? What is the reason behind it? Because we, until now, we are talking about the future of the industry, but when we haven't even sorted out the backbone of this industry, the analytical methodology, we don't have the monograph. Where are we at on that? Let's set some regulation, so that we can all work behind the same aim. We have a same methodology. Everybody is testing with the same methodology. So we are having a level playing field. So we need to generate that data, have that basic infrastructure in place so that this industry can be sustainable.